I just wanted to start with some questions, and we'll open up to the audience. First of all, thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing this incredible story. I'm curious, because you say in the beginning of the film that you just wanted to shoot, the last day of the Chinatown Fair. How did you first discover Chinatown Fair, and what was your fascination with it? That makes you want to be there on the last day.
Yeah. Irene and I were in Chinatown one night, and we were meeting some friends, and I forgot my ID, and so the bar wouldn't let us in. And so we just started walking around, and we kind of literally stumbled upon this arcade, and I was just like mesmerized by what I encountered. I think we just walked in and felt like a really special feeling, like that we can't really put into words, but we just knew something was really special and that it had been special for a long time. And then like a month or two later, I was on Reddit.com and on a New York page or something, and someone wrote, Chinatown Fair is closing. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we just were like, let's go see what the story is and start filming. And that's how it started. We're not gamers. We're just drawn to that energy, and that we suspected there was something of value there.
And how did you get to meet all of the kind of characters that have populated this place for so long?
Actually, everybody there, all the characters were really eager to talk about their experience, because it was, nearing the last days, and so they were like, this place is so important to us, They really wanted to talk about their experience.
Were they afraid that since you two weren't gamers, that you're not kind of from that community, that maybe you wouldn't go in with the right intentions for them? Because, they're very protective of that space.
No, I didn't really get that feeling. I think they just really wanted to share what they had, been a part of, which was something. Oh, not Henry, yeah. He was tough.
Yeah, Henry Sen, who, we grew very close to because we worked for multiple years on the movie. Henry was very closed off. Henry, actually, we really had to earn his trust and just spend a lot of time with him without a camera, and he slowly started revealing things and letting us into his life.
Did you have to play against him?
Oh, are you kidding? Like, Henry is one of the best Street Fighter players in the entire world. He's played in tournaments in Japan. This is in the 90s. Actually, Henry Sen, a Wall Street guy, picked up a video game magazine from the 90s and saw that 3 of the best Street Fighter players were in New York City. And so he went to Chinatown Fair and asked Sam, like, who's Henry Sen, who's Arturo Sanchez, and who is Eddie Lee? And Sam's like, oh, it's these guys. And this guy recruited them and hired them to work on Wall Street. I don't know exactly what they were doing, but his theory was like, if they are so good at playing video games and fast reactions, that they'll be able to do stocks well. And Eddie Lee still works on Wall Street.
They're gaming no matter how. Yeah. I love the film. The style of the film. People in the film keep talking about dreams, like they see this as a dream, and then the way you make the film is it kind of feels like a dream where everyone has to one day wake up from. And
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the style and the approach that you took to turn this into a story and experience for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Chinatown Fair. I'm so glad you feel that, because that's what we were trying to say. Like, there was a lot of points in the story where like, there's so many details in a history, and it's like you can tell to create so many movies, but we're like, let's go for the atmosphere and energy and dreamlike quality that this place had more than other things. So from the very beginning, and Chinatown in New York is so special and dreamlike, especially at night, and that's like the arcade comes alive at night. And so it was Irene's idea to start the movie with this like dream of a kid having a dream about going to the arcade as a child. And so it's like, and then Sam had the dream. I don't know, New York is very cinematic, and we love movies, and we just wanted to create, we didn't want to just do a talking head doc. We're like, this place is set in such an amazingly unique place. Let's try to bring people into this. That's what we wanted to do.
Was it tempting to make it just super nostalgic?
Yeah, it was. And I think a lot of people have described it as a nostalgic film, which I think it is, right? But at the same time, we both realized Chinatown Fair is not a nostalgic uh, it's living. It's like it's like these young people are not in it because they like played video games in the 80s. It's like it's real in today, so that wasn't nostalgic for them. So we wanted to like try to minimize the just people reminiscing about the past, which I think that was a challenge.
Yeah, I'll just add that the first night we were there, it really felt like we were stepping into like another world. It was crazy. Like we were like, what is this place? Like it's just the lighting and all the people hanging out, and it really felt like we were not where we were before. So like displaced from reality kind of. So we really wanted to bring that to the film.
And how are these two locations doing now, or what's the what's the vibe like there now?
Oh, well, I can talk a little about Chinatown Fair since it's reopened. It's doing really well. Like, and as Lonnie was saying, a lot of dance gamers, music games, those are really big there. So that's a new community has kind of moved in. So it's a lot more girls. It's lighter in there, colorful, and they are like, yeah, we feel safer. So yeah, it's thriving. It's doing really well. Doing really well.
Yeah, and then I talked to Henry a couple weeks ago. So Henry opened Next Level in Brooklyn's Chinatown on 8th Avenue, and he moved there because it was the rent was cheaper than Manhattan's Chinatown. Gentrification and whatnot. So, but the crazy thing is, like now that neighborhood in Brooklyn, is going up, and he might have to move. It's really crazy, and it's like he moved on a block of Chinatown in Brooklyn that was like a mechanic was on the block, a wholesaler of like kitchen goods. It was very rough, and then like last year, like a really nice fancy coffee shop opened up across the street. It's just like crazy how it's changing. So Next Level is like, who knows? It's he's like Sam. He's not doing it for the money at this point. It's really because he just loves this, and he like can't live without it.
Yeah. This is also a great reminder that this movie it's not just about video games, not just about that community, but about the changes that are happening in New York City.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize that was kind of like the bigger picture?
I think immediately, like, that was, I mean, you can't, like, we live in New York, and every day somebody's like, oh my God, did you hear this diner closed, or this, cherished local place, because the developers are just like, well, we can charge way more rent. So they're doing it, and there's no laws preventing them. So from the beginning, gentrification and like Chinatown has resisted. Like Chinatown's the last neighborhood that's really avoided a lot of the just being taken over by developers, and that's a very complicated answer why, but it's amazing. The Chinese community has really fought to keep it not their own, but like make sure there's a space for the community, and they own their buildings, and they do, they don't just kick people out and raise the rent. But you can't be in New York without noticing it and feeling it. And so I think early on we were like, this is definitely a subtext. And like going to Times Square, which is where there was like tons of arcades back in the day. And now Times Square is like, what it is. It's just,
Super Mario in the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, for pictures.
Yeah, I was pretty psyched when we got that shot. I was like, thank you.
It says everything.
Yeah.
Any questions from the audience? Yeah, right here. Yes.
If you went there, and you played a game, which one was your favorite game?
All right, favorite game. Mine is definitely like I'm horrible at video games, except for race games, like the racers. So they have this game called Initial D, which is from Japan. It's an amazing video game, and this is actually a beautiful story. Like we went back on Chinese New Year. We were getting dinner in the neighborhood, so we're like, let's go to the arcade, and I sat down to play Initial D. It was like kind of the first time that I had been at Chinatown Fair without a camera and without having to do something. So I was like, I'm gonna play some games. And I played Initial D, and this guy, it's a really complicated game, and it's in Japanese. So there's no English because it's straight from Japan. It's an import. And he's like, I was like, do you know? And he's like, yeah, he helped me set it up, and it was great, and we played, and he destroyed me. He's like, so good. And then he gave me this like little card that is for the game that you usually have to buy. And he's like, hey man, I forget his name, but he introduced himself. He's like, you can have this card, like, and he was like embracing me into his community of racing players. It was like, I was like, oh my God, like, the spirit is still alive, and they're so welcoming. So it was really nice.
Other questions? Let's go right here.
The second owner that actually took over Playland, how was their business? Did you follow up or?
So
Yeah, yeah, Lonnie.
So Lonnie's great. Lonnie is an amazing person, and he's got, he's a businessman. He like, listen, he's got like the stats on every single game. It's all electronic, so he gets an email every day being like, this game made $10, this game made $70, and he immediately saw that the ticket games that were for kids were not making any money, and so he got rid of them, and he replaced them with the type of game that was making money, and that was competitive games, and there were rhythm games, and there were race games, the games that like, you can really play and get better at. And so now he told us that all the money that he put into it to start the arcade, like he's paid it back. It's doing good. So it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think when I was watching the first time, I thought, oh, here's the villain.
Yeah.
But by the end, you realize, I mean, he's got his own dream for this as well, and that's something beautiful too.
Yeah, Lonnie kept saying things that like were so villainous, like he's painting over the wall that like all these people signed, and I'm just like,
the graffiti.
yeah, two things. Like one, I'm like, wow, that's going to be in the movie. But two, I was like, Lonnie, like you're such a nice guy, you don't realize you're destroying these people.
There's some other hands in the yeah, right there.
How long did it take to make this film?
Oh, how long?
We started filming 2011, so right before the arcade closed. Yeah, the week it closed.
Other questions? Let's go here.
There's other centers, aren't there, for where the gamers come together for competitions?
Oh, places for games. Well, I think like gaming is becoming a much more respected. I don't know.
Sport.
Yeah, and also just like it's become really important. NYU just opened up a master's program, and it's called NYU Game Center, where it's like dedicated to games, creating games, and they have like, I don't know. It's amazing. There's also another place called Baby Castles that it's all about indie games. So they all get together, and it's artists and musicians, and they have a space in Brooklyn. So there is like an alternative scene, and then also one in education. So that's really pretty neat to see.
Right here.
I want to ask, what different equipment did you use in filming?
Yeah, that's a good question. We started in 2011, so it was standard definition at that point. It was a Canon XL2 camera. And then once we got a little bit of funding, we were able to work with really talented cinematographers, and we used a variety, some digital SLRs, like the 5D, the 7D, and then we shot some stuff on the Canon C300, so it was all HD.
Other questions? Right here.
I actually wanted to circle back to Lonnie. How did he respond to the final product of this film? Like, did he have any backlash at all?
This is about Lonnie's reaction to the film.
So we premiered in New York, and Lonnie was there at the opening, and so were a lot of the guys from the movie and a lot of the locals from the Chinatown Fair. And during his part, like a lot of the guys were like booing and stuff, and I was just like sweating, like, oh my God, like do not get up and leave. And Lonnie brought like a lot of his family, so it was just like super awkward. But Lonnie loves it. Like, I mean, he came back to our second screening and brought like a whole other group of friends and family. He at his Hanukkah party, he was like, "Give me a DVD. I want to play like the rest of my family." And at the second screening, yeah, I mean, he brought his kids. I mean, like he is our #1 fan. I mean, he's been like the first one to like comment on all our Facebook posts. Yeah, he loves it. I think he sees it as good promotion for the movie too.
Yeah, knowing him.
Yeah.
Right here.
A couple questions. One is it that I have the impression that Chinatown Fair and Next Level are like the two most prominent arcades in the New York City area? And secondly, it seems optimistic that they can coexist because they're attracting different gamer communities. Like Next Level's got the fighter community, and it seems that Chinatown Fair has the dancers and perhaps the racing community.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Henry, had that dance game in Next Level. He sold it to Lonnie. Like Next Level is all fighting games, and then to have some sort of retail product, they've started carrying trading cards, like not trading cards, Magic, the Gathering, and other card-based games. So, and that's actually a thriving young adult scene culture as well. So, Next Level's doing that, and then yeah, Lonnie's got the rhythm games, and I mean it's a city of like 8 million people. Like I think there's room for two, and there is. It's unfortunate that Henry can't afford rent in Manhattan because I think it would just open it up to a whole other world of kids that. Because I mean, he's way out in Brooklyn. It's like if you live in Harlem, that's like a 2-hour train ride. So it's rough.
There was a question. Yeah.
So you went into this looking at the culture of it, the arcade itself. What was it like pulling back the layers of the community, and where do you decide where to stop with that?
Man, that was I mean, that's why the movie took like so long to make. Like, because there were so many interesting facets. Like, I think at some point, we had so many other things. Like, there's a lot in the movie. Like, if you ever get the extended cut, there'd be some extras. Once we decided that what really was interesting to us were like these personal stories, and like personally, Irene and I connected with Akuma and Anthony and Henry so well that we're like, okay, let's just like tell their story. And sadly, we had to there's some interesting things about the dance scene that we didn't really get to portray. And there was actually an amazing lesbian, gay, transgender community at Chinatown Fair, and like we just couldn't. We like tried to get in the movie and we failed, but that was a really tough thing in editing. I think we just eventually realized, okay, we just can't do everything. We need to just do what feels right to us. So that's what we ended up focusing on.
Right here in the red.
Oh, Sam? Oh, he passed away, sadly, right before we released the film. Yeah, and his family came, and it was so sweet to see them, but yeah.
In the back.
That Next Level arcade place, does he still hold competitions?
Oh yeah, streaming is really a big part of their business. It draws in a lot of people. So they do weekly tournaments, tons of them. I know they have like one midweek and one weekends. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Yeah. Oh yeah, they stream them on Twitch? Yeah.
Yeah, Twitch. I just heard that. Yeah, I mean, the tournaments I think are really important for Henry's business, because it gives a time and date that everybody can come together, and they do tournaments every week on the regular, and it's all community. Like, he's not even organizing it; it's the community that's organizing it. And I love to see the community embracing digital technology and kind of so yeah, everybody plays at home. We know that, but here's an example of people coming together in real life and sharing it over the internet, and it's just I don't know, that's a cool evolution.
Yeah. In the middle, in the black. Yeah.
So it looks like Lonnie, when he was at China Fair, he opened the music community more because it was making more money. So it seemed like it was more of the business side. Do you think that matters, that it wasn't for the passion of the community, more for money, or just the fact that the community exists is good enough?
No, I think it matters. I think, Lonnie's not Sam. Lonnie's not there every day. He's not committed to the people. He's not committed to the community. I mean, he's just there because of the money. I mean, not just because of the money. He loves the whole arcade experience. But if it was the ticket games making money, he would have just filled the arcade with those. So he has a good manager that is very, part of the scene and understands that. His name's Leo, so he's kind of running it and keeping it going. But I'm worried that as soon as the profits dip, Lonnie might close because he's in it for the money. So
There's time for a couple more questions. Right here.
Oh, I have a question. So you said it took you a while to actually convince Henry Sin to trust him. How long did it take, basically?
I think to get Henry to it took a couple years. I mean, yeah. Yeah, I think. I think most of the stuff we got from Henry that's in the movie is the last interview we did with them, and that was 3 or 4 years after we started hanging out with him. And Sam, it took to get Sam to agree to be interviewed. It took a year of me calling him once every couple weeks. Yeah, and eventually, the only reason he eventually agreed was because Lonnie, who was friends with Sam's son, they've known each other. Lonnie was like, "Yeah, like this guy's cool. Like you should talk to him." And then that's when he finally let me into their house.
Time for a couple more, like right here. Yeah.
Yes.
So, with the new changing of video games, we're changing from an actual hard-based copy into digital and eShop. And so, how is that? Do you think is going to affect the arcade community, where they're solely dependent on hardware games now that people can just play at home and play online? So, is that going to affect them, or is there still going to be a community? Because now people are just going to play at home.
So okay, that's a great question. I think this is definitely a good thing. I think the fact that like a place like Steam, which is like an iTunes for video games, it's for PC games. It's opening up access to weirder games that are independent games. So like if you're familiar with like independent music or independent film, there's a whole world of stuff out there that's not being made by the big studios. Low budget stuff, and so you're seeing like this whole growth of games that are like really awesome, and social-based games that are not first-person shooters. This game's about social games that you play together. So I think there's more of those being made, and the fact that there's like independent video game artists that are creating games. Like there's this new game called Killer Queen, and it's like a multiplayer game. It's 8 people, independent studio, like 2 guys made it, and it's awesome. And they actually put a game in Chinatown Fair, and it's like thriving. So I think there's like a future for social games, but yeah, like it's like a catch-22. They're like, well, we don't make these games to be played together because nobody's playing them together. But maybe online, like you can play together online. So maybe that will lead to more social games and hopefully more places to play them in person. I don't know.
It's time for one more question. You've had your hand up for a while.
So this film obviously took a few years to make, and from your funding, it looks like you went through both Kickstarter and then eventually got IGN into it. So was there like a long process? You run out of funding, you have to switch? Like this film looks like it took a long time and a lot of hurdles to get to it. So is there like a little backstory to why it took so long to win with one kind of direction and you came out a completely different movie?
Yeah, that's true. So we thought the movie was just going to be about Chinatown Fair, and then Henry decides to open Next Level. So we're like, okay, well now we have to film Next Level, and then we're like, okay, the movie's done. Literally, we're like, the movie's done, and then we were shooting one night B-roll, which is just street shots of Chinatown, and I saw that the gate at Chinatown Fair was open. I was like, what's that? And that's when I met Lonnie. And I was with Owen, and Owen's like, what does this mean? And I was like, this means the movie's not done. And it was a really weird feeling, because I knew it was a good development for the story, but at the same time I was like, what money am I going to have? Like, more editing, more, it's so... yeah, we were lucky to have like an amazing Kickstarter, and we were lucky to have IGN step in and provide some funding. I mean, like video games are so big that we didn't have too much trouble raising some money, so we were lucky in that regard.
So how can we continue to support the project?
Thank you for asking. So we are going to be self-releasing the movie. So we're going to do like it's going to be on all digital platforms at the end of the summer. So please. If you like the movie, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, say it. You can follow us on facebook.com/arcade movie, or just Google The Lost Arcade and it'll all pop up. And we really appreciate your support and coming out today.
All right, thank you, Kurt and Irene, for being here with us today.
Thanks.
And thank you to the audience. As with video games, you all can watch movies at home, but you chose to do it all here in a social setting.